and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 8/17/25. We are here with Eli Miller and Randy Kramer again, and this is going to be a conversation about his SSP experiences, or at least a few of them. But before we get into this, I now open the circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. So, Joanna? Yeah.
We're all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to please come in with no conflicting agenda so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent or mischievous type beings to be swept away so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with great blessings that we always send your way, we say, so be it.
And so be it. So, Eli, why don't you give them like a bit of your backstory when it comes to this, maybe a specific SSP event that stands out for you.
Well, with the backstory, I think it's a family thing. My grandfather worked on the Manhattan Project, which was the nuclear bombs dropped in World War II. After that, he worked on. We think that he was recruited into reverse engineering lots of things after that. So I think it's a family connection as to why I was taken. But one of my earliest SSP memories is being taken and being trained in the mall that I hear a lot of people are trained in. And what we were doing is we were doing a lot of combat exercises, and they were just testing the kids to see what their abilities are and who was good and who wasn't. I remember being on a team that kept on losing over and over again. Like they were all going to be released and not looked into any further. But I remember going up to one of the instructors and saying, I think I can do better if I was by myself. And he said, sure, let's see what you can do. So we had my old team go. They didn't tell anybody that I was off by myself. And then I remember hiding in the roof of the mall, like between the roof and the ceiling, and you could go from store to store all over the mall, climbing inside the roof. And I remember popping out behind these guys, behind the enemy team, and getting a few of them before they got me. But that got me noticed by them. And since then, they put me in a lot of solo programs where I was off doing things by myself a lot. I remember a lot of, just sitting and doing things by myself a lot.
Well, that's great. And again, in your personal life now, you've been more of a lone wolf.
Yes, yeah. And I think I always remember, that's one of my earliest memories, is saying, I think I could do better specifically. I think I could do better if I was by myself. Because I feel like that marks the moment of my life where everything turned, where they took control, I guess. And then since then, I feel like, in the programs, I was kept isolated, and even here in this life I really enjoy solitude and being by myself. It not at first, but I grew into it, and I really, I don't want to say it's not easy for me to be around other people, but it's not easy to be around normal people. I'll put it that way.
When you have a shirt that says "I hate people," that tends to be a clue.
But it is an interesting thing that you brought up, and we spoke about a little bit more earlier, with the fact that it's like once they realize that you were more effective, and again, I hate to say it, more effective for them and their purposes of using you as a lone person, then the dynamics changed where you were then almost pruned to be an isolated individual. Instead of saying, I'm amongst a group of people, amongst a group of friends or whatever, and I go out and do these isolated missions, they made you...
the whole life was isolated. I remember specifically training with other people in the programs, and then halfway through a 20-mile hike or whatever, they would come and pick me up. So the other kids would be like, that guy doesn't have to do it. And then I remember I wasn't able to sit with other people during lunch. I was just really excluded from other people, and they really made everybody not my friends. Yeah, so there was a lot of just me being by myself. I remember the missions they would put me on. Like the first mission I remember is I was still a little kid, and I had to distract a guy so he wouldn't make an appointment. Like this guy had to go somewhere, and I was sent there to distract him so he wouldn't make it in time and he'd miss something. And I remember a lot of missions like that where I'd be dropped into place and I'd have to wait for an event to happen. But I'd be sitting there, by myself for days, weeks, months, waiting for this to happen. I just remember a lot of solitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple of mine were like that too, where it was more to discredit or to discourage somebody from like inventing something or making a meeting or something like that. And I had the mall ones as well, where we were in a smoky mall and we had it was a full combat zone, things of that nature. So some of mine were very similar. We have run parallel lines.
Yeah, it was that mall that once I heard other people describing it, and I saw somebody put a picture of it online, and I was like, that was the moment. I was like, oh, okay, this is all real. This is all.
And everyone kind of needs that moment where they're like, I am crazy. I am like crazy town. What in the world? I feel sort of normal, but I'm crazy town. And then something happens where it tips the scales that you're like, oh my God, this was really real.
Yeah. Like I've had my
I want
memories.
to interject on that, if I may. A very, very dear friend of mine who was a psychiatrist who passed away many years ago from Lou Gehrig's disease. I don't know why they always get the good ones, but it's sidestep. Right about the time that I was fully aware that either something really traumatizing had occurred or I was a payday bar with lots of nuts and I needed to kind of get to the bottom of that. So he was one of the first people that I could say, all right, look, I'm honestly not sure what to do with this because either I have bad PTSD or I'm crazier than a loony bird and I'd really like to get to the bottom of it. And the first thing he said, which I was very encouraged by, he said, that's actually a really good sign that you're questioning whether you might be crazy. He said, so first thing you want to know is that people who question whether they're crazy usually aren't, because crazy people are all in. And you don't have to, they don't sit there and question it. They're just like, I'm all in on this. And so if your first steps are like, am I nuts? It's actually a really healthy step.
Yeah.
The next thing he did, which I'd also encourage anybody to do, because he's a psych doc, he's got a copy of the DSM-4. It was the 4 at the time. This was that many years ago. And he said, well, why don't you crack open the DSM-4 and let's start going through the symptomology of the different conditions. So we started at schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective. We went through all the personality disorders and all the schizorders. And it was, for any of you who don't know, you have to have a certain number of 2 or 3 major symptoms and then usually 5 or more of the minor symptoms to qualify for a condition. So it was like, yeah, no. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. So it was, and there's always crossing of symptoms. So like, certain number of those symptoms are going to be on 20 other, conditions. It's about matching up this very specific set of conditions. So we went through all of the mental ones, and it was no. And then we got to PTSD, and I checked 18 out of 19 boxes. So he was like, well, you just self-diagnosed yourself. You don't have to ask me anymore now. So actually encourage, if you think you're nuts, pop out the DSM-5. Give yourself a little diagnostic. Ask yourself some questions. And be honest with yourself, because there are overlapping mental health conditions with people who have real experiences that, I'm just going to be honest with you, need to be treated before you're going to be able to sort any of that other stuff, or you're just going to go down a horrible, horrible spiral. And way too many people come to me who are still in those conditions. So you might want to just be honest and give yourself an assessment so that you know what you're dealing with. And then you might just find out, oh, no, I'm just really traumatized and I'm not crazy. But asking yourself the question is actually a really healthy step. Mm-hmm. If you're not ever asking yourself that question, that's a red flag. If you've never asked yourself the question, could I be crazy? That's a red flag.
Oh, we've all questioned the brain tumor at some point. Yeah, so, yeah, exactly.
It was a big part of my life where I was like, please just diagnose me.
Right.
Like, it would make so much more sense if I was crazy.
Yeah, because most people are like, if that's really true, I'll live with that. But wanting to get to the bottom of it is more important than feeling like you know the answer Just asking those internal questions is actually really healthy psychologically. Anyway, there, I'm done. That's my interjection.
So, how old were you when you started to have these like memory breakthroughs?
Okay, I would have the memories when they brought me back. So I would get taken, and then I don't remember remembering the memories. I remember waking up as a child and thinking, I just got back from a mall, or I was gone for a long time. And I remember really looking forward to when they would take me, like really looking forward to it. I remember one time they were bringing me back, and I was just crying, a little 12-year-old crying and screaming because I didn't want to go back. Like, it was horrible here, and I wanted to stay over there. And I remember this lady like consoling me, like, you have to. You really don't have a choice. Everything's going to be fine.
Right.
Like, you have an important future, but you have to do this. Like, you have to experience both.
And so, as a child, did you try to tell your parents?
Yes, I remember. Yeah, I remember going to my mom because I remember growing up in a second house. Like, I remember having 2 childhoods with 2 separate parents, or 4 different parents, 2 sets of parents. And I remember when I was little, I'd always go to my mom and be like, "Hey, did we ever, have the slide in the backyard? Or was I ever in a house with a window that looked like this?" And she'd be like, No, we never did any of that, never." And I just remember thinking, it's so weird because I have these memories, like they're there. This stuff happened to me. I remember it, but my parents are telling me it never happened. So I would put it in the back of my head. And
People misconstrue these for like past life memories a lot of time because it happened either in a body transfer type situation or some kind of mind control situation. So it's like people think that it's past life, and they're like, "Oh, it could have been me because it feels like it's distant." Of course, because it's detached. So, yeah, of course it's going to feel that way. 9 times out of 10 with SS peers, it's going to feel like, yeah, it's detached. And if you start to get something back, you see it from a third-person perspective in your own head. Yeah. Did you ever have that part?
yeah, seeing it from a third-person perspective. Yeah, I do remember my past life though. I was a little girl that died in a tornado. Like, I remember that. I remember the death scene specifically, like getting sucked up, not being able to breathe because all the oxygen's just getting ripped out of your lungs, and then falling. And I remember I left my body right before I hit the ground.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I would always, again with that, I would ask my parents, like, were we ever in a tornado? No, that never happened. I specifically remember like holding on to my dad's hand as I'm getting ripped out of the
That sucks.
the cellar or whatever.
That was a bad one, yeah. Yeah, I heard Isaac say, "We're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy."
Funny, that's what
Funny
I was
thing
thinking,
is,
but I didn't
I
want to
remember
say it out loud.
It was
Okay.
like potato
I go
farmer
filter
days, like
myself
back in the
again.
day. And I told one of my friends, and she looked up, like, any missing children ever die in a tornado back in the day, and there was one, a little blonde girl, and she's like, "I found a picture of this girl." He's looking at it like,
Boom.
maybe, maybe that might be it. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but yeah, I've had those memories for as long as I can remember.
What
Past life.
now experiences with your SSP? Did you have a scattering of good and bad memories? I know a lot of people conjure up a lot of the horror show stuff, but did you have anything positive that took place?
I feel like my experience, because I would be put in a place to wait for an event to happen, was a lot of just sitting around and not having to do combat, and not having to, and because I was by myself, I didn't have to deal with anybody else. Like, eventually, I remember the first mission I had where I had to distract the guy, I failed that, and I had gotten in a lot of trouble for that. But eventually they learned to trust me so that they could just drop me somewhere and I could do whatever I wanted until, the event happened or whatnot. But on the other hand, I also do remember, like, combat training was, in order to be an effective soldier, you have to get rid of the fear of death. So we're going
Yep.
to kill you in every single way
bunch
possible.
of times until you're not afraid. 'Cause you're like, well, let's see, I've been stabbed, shot, burned, blown up. What have you done? Everything. Then at some point, once everything's been done, you're like, someone's like, Yeah, I've been shot before. What you got for me? But
Sometimes I'll be watching a movie and somebody will die in the movie, and I'm like, I know exactly how that feels.
right. Sometimes you're like, oh, that's a good death scene. That's exactly how that goes.
Yep,
Good
that's
job,
how it would
dude.
happen. Yep.
That's exactly how I died that time. Yeah, for real.
Over and over again, like in a repetitious loop, I heard Isaac say, "But you forgot Shark Attack."
No, I was eaten. Eaten was one of them.
Oh.
I specifically remember being eaten
Oh.
multiple times. Yeah,
Oh, God.
Man.
like taking chunks off
Sure.
and the whole thing.
That's
Yeah,
rough.
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that one's probably the roughest one. Yeah.
So we were talking about it. What do you think of the movie Mickey 17 then?
Oh, yeah, that was. Watching it was eerie because it's like, yeah, this is very familiar, very familiar.
Yeah, it's going to both trigger people's memories, and then it's also kind of mocks them in a little bit because of the comedic aspect. So it's a little of both, but the majority of it will start to trigger, even though it was meant to make fun of. In some areas, it'll trigger the
Yeah, like-
things that it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I watch a lot of sci-fi movies, and there's lots of stuff in there where I would just be like, that's the thing, it triggers a memory. I was watching, was it Pandorum, I think, and there's a scene where one of the dudes has to climb from one part of the ship to the other through like a tiny little passage in order to specifically restart life support.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, I did that. That was me. That's my
You were
story
that guy, yeah.
of crawling through a tiny little like vent, like John McClane, crawling through a vent to specifically restart the life support.
What led up to the ship being in that bad condition to begin with?
I don't know. All I remember is I'm extremely claustrophobic because of that.
Okay.
Like every time I'm in a tight space, I think of that moment.
Mhm.
Like
That's how you
why,
know
yeah.
some of these memories have come back, see, because you get the emotion first and you get the fear surrounded, like yours with claustrophobia. Mine was of the workforce, because part of the time they threw me into a factory situation where I was behind real workers, but I was a child worker in one of them, so I was forced into a workspace, so when I came back out of it, I was in complete mental basket case when it came to working a job. So yeah, that's actually that's a validation right there, because you have claustrophobic type of emotion surrounding it, because that is you remembering that exact incident even before you remembered the incident itself. Your subconscious dredged up the emotion, and that's memory too.
Yeah, and even like little things. Like I remember jacking up my car one day to change a tire, and just the concept of the jack. I feel like when we would get like somebody else's craft, I remember I vaguely feel like you can't. It's different material, so the seats they would put in there would be like like jacked pressure to stay where they are. And I just remember like sitting on like a giant car jack, but it had a seat attached to it, and that's what they would use in like the shuttles. Because like their materials wouldn't combine with extraterrestrial materials, or I don't know. That one's pretty vague.
Yeah, like
But I
there's
remember
factories that build things for those spaceships too, like the corporation that threw me into that situation. That was a factory that was building parts for some of the SSV spaceships, and so it sounds like you were in that type of a similar type of dynamic where.
Yeah.
So do you remember how in your memories, what's the oldest of you that you remember being in one of them? How old were you? And you're like, don't have memories
Old
afterwards.
was I?
Yeah, like I remember things up to being 20. I remember things up to being 30, 40.
I'm still getting taken. I remember
So-
doing things like a month
but
ago.
So okay,
Yeah.
so you're still being utilized. You
Yes.
feel?
Yeah, I'm getting.
They do that.
Yeah,
you know.
recently it's been a lot of like I'm on a committee for something, like lots of board meetings, and just sitting around like writing papers, and that's recently. Yeah, just like executive work. It's really weird. It's bizarre because it's not. I don't know. It's a complete shift from what I used to do. So now I'm like telling other people what to do, and I remember a memory in an office on the moon. Yeah, that was interesting. I was there for a while.
Oh yeah, they have a lot of offices up there. Like there's at least 3 different military branches that I counted up there that had offices up there, and several aliens, but Martian, German too. But yeah, that's very interesting. Where I've had these weird memories where I'm just performing some menial task like that and going, what is this? This is weird. That's how you know you really have something, is because you're getting the getting the little boring details. Like I told Tony Rodriguez one time, I said the most mundane detail speaks the greatest volumes. And
Sometimes it
yeah,
really does.
yeah, this is like when we were describing how a toilet functioned on Mars. He goes, "I want to know where you took a poop." I'm like, "Okay, we described the toilet." He's like, "Okay, you have my attention." So it's like so that is some of the most of the most boring details are some of the most important, because usually the ones that have these other outlandish things and don't have any of the filler in between, the filler is actually more important than the bigger stuff, because of saying that that's a more of a legitimate experience.
Yeah, I have a very mundane, specific memory of a red wagon or a red tricycle that kept on making me angry, because I was like, the mission was I had to again go to a place and wait for an event to happen. But I remember staying there for a while, and I was in like an apartment, and outside by the dumpster there was a red tricycle with a broken wheel, and the garbage men would never pick it up, and it just made me angry. Like, it's clearly broken. It's right next to I got to stare at this thing every time I look out my window. It's just garbage sitting there, and it made me angry. And I specifically remember like just getting angry at this damn red wagon, the red tricycle, and it was, yeah, no, like you said, the mundane things.
Mhm.
Like that's.
I think because you
basically
knew a
all I
child was no
remember.
longer. I feel like you knew a child was no longer using it. Like something happened to the child, and you were picking up on that and making it
Yeah.
kind of thing. You know, exactly.
It's also like, just clean your neighborhood, man. It's right next to the dumpster. Obviously, it's garbage. Just take it. But I also feel like I couldn't go and move it, because if I interfere with anything in this world, like, I get in trouble, I guess. I don't know. I can't interact with things I'm not supposed to. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like you had like your own little set of orders, your own directives, and you couldn't interact with
That's from
everything
mission
else.
parameters. If you're sent somewhere to do something
Yes.
specific, don't fucking mess with time.
You stay in
Don't
your
fucking
room
mess with
until
time.
you're
Don't
allowed
mess with
to leave.
objects.
Yeah.
Don't mess with people.
Oh yeah,
don't
the
mess-
time
yeah.
core guys love to give you, if you mess with time, it could erase everything from existence, which isn't necessarily true, but they want to scare the shit
They're
out of
overdramatic.
you to never fuck with time.
They're
'Cause
overdramatic.
then they're gonna have to spend time unraveling the shit that you fucking shouldn't have touched. Yeah.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
to
So that's a
recalculate it.
leftover
That's,
from that.
yeah, the basic gist that they told me when I messed up that first mission.
Got some shit you shouldn't have touched.
And then they had to recalculate it and remerge the timelines and then do all this
Yeah, I got
egghead
a
crap.
lot of
You know,
trouble
and
for
it's
that.
like
It's a pain in the ass that they have to do all day long, but they don't want to have more work to do.
They're
So.
lazy. So yeah, from what I understand.
I remember the punishment for that, though, is they put me in, like, what I can only describe is the loading program of the Matrix, where it's just white everywhere.
Sure,
There's
yeah.
nothing. And they put me in there for a very long amount of time.
That sounds like that.
And then they got angry at me because I just started meditating and was able to pass time like that. So they just kept on adding time and
Oh.
adding time and adding time, and I'm like, whatever.
Most people would find that torturous, but you found a way through it.
Yes.
So that, I find
Yeah,
that
they
when
got really angry that I turned it against them.
They don't like none of those from Time Core to the rest of them. They don't like it when you can turn it on them like that. They mirror back at them. They hate it. Yeah, that's a variable they can't seem to codify in their brain for whatever reason. Did you have anything?
Only one.
No.
Since you seem to have, you're still being utilized, you're still having experiences, but you're still remembering them quite quickly afterwards, or bits and pieces
It's
of
usually
them.
like they'll take me and I'll remember when I wake up.
Right.
Like, but it's not specific things. It's just like vague.
Just little
pieces.
bits
Yeah.
and pieces. So my curiosity question is, do you have any memories of anyone ever talking to you about that your mind's not staying right? Did anyone ever say anything to you
Well, they
about
kept
it?
trying over and over again, and it just wasn't taking.
It's an interesting thing that it's constantly happening, and to me, and that you're still being utilized.
What I get out of it is it's supposed to be happening. Everything that's ever happened to me has happened for a reason, good and the bad. But yeah, I feel like it's
So you're
part
not
of
being
something.
punished or chastised for
Yeah.
that.
Because they know you're
Also-
in command of it. Yeah.
I'm extremely like isolated from everybody. I don't talk to people like this is so I'm not like out there sharing my well obviously I'm doing it this time, but like I won't I'm not disrupting anything. So yeah, I feel like they let me keep them.
And so, again, there is a reason why now you are, and you're around people, of course, that have the same experiences. So, what are you hoping, besides being able to just give your testimony of things that happened to you? What is it that you are seeking from having this conversation right now?
it just feels good having this conversation. Like, people in my life, like, they don't understand this. I can't talk about this to anybody. I tried, like, vaguely discussing UFOs with my parents. And, like, it's nothing. It just feels good talking about it, getting it all off my shoulders and sharing my story in case anybody has something similar. Hopefully it'll help them understand what they're going through.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, there needs to be more focus groups like this. I have a feeling in time there's going to be, but no pun intended. But yeah, having to deal with all like time horror, having to doing resets and all this other crap. It's important to find and locate others that have gone through this. Now, it doesn't mean that you kind of constantly regurgitate something and not find a solution to it either. That's where we're at with this. You're finding the solution by actually telling it. So this actually it matched both sides. This is how we feel. But did you have anything else?
No. You want to bring someone in?
Yeah. Isaac's been chomping into the bit. He keeps calling you Time Boy for some reason.
Time boy.
Mm.
I do have lots of like alternate reality memories.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first mission I did, I failed it because I saw a video game store and I went in there, and the one thing I remember is Mario was green. I was like, no, that's Luigi.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember like trying to talk to the guy, like, no, this is Luigi. He goes, no, what are you talking about? This is Mario.
Mm-hmm.
It's just little things like that.
Little things that are off like that,
Mhm.
yeah. Exactly like their little planning, they didn't count for every tiny detail. And you think that's a biggie right there. You think they would have gotten that, but with Mario being red, you know. But, okay, Isaac said they were red-green colorblind that day. But, okay, okay, Isaac, let's not hang out on the periphery like a crater. Come on. Okay, let's see. Ooh, hang on, we got another thing off this way. No. Okay. There was I had to put a big mirror up and get rid of something that was trying something off that way. They don't like the fact this conversation's being had. So, Isaac, make it quick. Let's see. Yes, I called you Time Boy because of the fact that you were in multiple simulations, you see, to account for multiple variations of multiple scenarios that you would possibly run into in the field, using, similar to the holodeck on Star Trek, it had a lot more meat to it than that, other than just photonics, but some of the battle scenarios were of course real, the mall scenarios, all of these things, and seeing the red tricycle, Randy was correct in that way because of the fact that you weren't supposed to change little things. Like people think that even a little thing doesn't matter, like kicking a rock or moving a garbage can or you throwing away the red tricycle, things of this nature. And yes, a child was abducted from that scenario, and the parents had just thrown it out, you see. So you were upset over the fact that somebody else had been taken into the core. This was one of those scenarios. Oh, you weren't supposed to touch it, but it was a look but don't touch. We will leave it here as long as possible because we don't want to move any little thing. Because, it creates a timeline schism like in The Flash where he moves one can of beans or something or tomatoes and it creates a timeline schism. That kind of thing. It's not always that fragile, but at any rate. They could easily fix it. They're just stupid and lazy. I'm just saying this because I don't care what they think. But in this scenario, the conversation's about you. In this, the reason I say Time Boy is you were put into some of these scenarios at first as a crash test dummy, where they wanted to test this scenario. Like him, they were testing suits of armor, different craft, thinking, okay, we're just going to plow him into the side of a mountain or plow him into the ocean and see what happens. We can revive him, kind of like a Mickey 17 type of scenario. His head comes off, we'll put it back on, that kind of thing. With your scenario, it was more like, okay, we're going to script this, we're going to see how he does here, if he elects not to touch this or to touch this. Kind of like a whole Shazam scenario where you're not supposed to touch the evil orbs, things of that nature. But in this scenario, in this scenario, you were run through the ringer of hell pretty much. And in the scenarios where you wanted to be on your own and they approved it, it is because they knew you were going to come to them with that proposal. Some of them may not have known. The people that you nailed inside the mall definitely didn't know. But some of the higher muckety-muck grand poobahs of the hierarchy knew that eventually they were going to have you be alone, and they also made it so that if you tried, how do I put this? Not necessarily backing out, or if you thought your time was done, they were going to throw you back in, going, "Oh, okay, all right. This guy eventually becomes this down the time stream. We will figure how to mold him into that down the time stream by running him through simulation after simulation after simulation." And eventually, you not knowing this would eventually form the synapses and the parts in the gray matter of the brain, decoding and encoding scenarios as they were real. Do you see? So, in this scenario, all of it was real, but in retrospect, but they still did simulations. Time Core had their fangs into you for just a little while. I say little while, but that's more of a temporal joke. It actually doesn't matter there. But in their headquarters, it's like the TVA headquarters in Loki. It's basically outside of all of that. So basically saying you're there for a little while, meaning you were there for probably hundreds of years. I joke a little bit because that's how it was in the show. But it was an extended period. But do you have questions for myself?
I'm completely blanking on every question I've ever thought of right now.
Because there's interference that we've been having to push.
So why don't we tie the bow? Can you tell him a little bit more about his genealogy, his father, and maybe how long have people in his family line been pulled into this?
Yes. From before your father, they were scanning your genome for possible usage in something. This could go back thousands of years, you see. And people like to call this a lineage curse or ancestral curse, which they're not wrong. But sometimes with ancestral curses, you just want to get rid of traits that no longer serve in the moment. That's the generality. The specific in this is they were choosing traits that would best suit them, and they scanned the timeline backwards. Well, you say backwards, but it's all relative, no pun intended. Where you would choose a specific line that would fit a specific need, or if it was a mix, you had somebody do an eclectic bunch of crap, if you really had to. But generally, warriors, in past lives, would also get put into some kind of soldier program, things of this nature. Yours was chosen based on a mean average of what not only your ancestry did, but they were able to scan some of your past lives as well with a temporal. They call it the chronometer or the chronovisor type of thing. That's more the generality. There's other specific names for it, but they scan a frequency, and then they scan a frequency going through time, and they're like, okay, this looks good to us. We'll mean average this and use it. Some aliens showed them how to do this by also turning their blood, amino acids, and everything from the chemicals into ones and zeros to view on a screen. So. Some of the couple of the gray species show them this crap. But with you, your lineage then was manicured to more of an extent to be of use to them later on down the line. Say, for instance, you had your mother and father that eventually had you. Well, not your father, that's impossible. It's your mother that had you. But in this, the two were brought together for that exact reason, to combine those genomes into what became you. One could argue Spirit does this too, of course, but you have these calculating eggheads at Time Core and a couple other places, those that shall not be named, in this instance, the Voldemorts of the program. But with this, and they look like him too. But anyway, with this, they brought you into this. This was not on accident. They can say all they want. They're like, oh, he chose to do this, he chose to do that, he chose to be a lone wolf, he chose to do this. No. It was they would consider it a form of predestination. And basically, oh, you're going to serve this purpose for this long. Their calculations are so far off when it comes to this they will get irked if anything goes outside of it. So with you declaring your sovereignty by coming out in the open, doing the opposite of what that original training was, is actually a very beneficial thing, because you step outside of that preset stamp or program. Now, if you go back thousands of years, there were ETs that stamped different souls, different lineages, things of that nature, in a incarnation grid. But in your specific one, this was more some creepy creeper with a set of binoculars looking at the family lineage with a microscope and saying, okay, these particular genomes coming together will provide us with the particular traits that we need at this particular time. Hence, ta-da, you. Not to say that you had no free will in this, your oversoul decided to step in to start to make changes in these areas. And this is what ticks off people like Time Court, because they think they have to clean up all this mess that they started. So they feel, oh, it's not in order with our viewpoint of creation. Therefore, if it steps outside of this, it's crap. Like in your Loki series, it's clipping and pruning of the timeline, you see. So that was a little over dramatic, but you get the point.
They're pretty picky about that show.
Yeah, extremely picky about that. And they will even throw people off course in their lives, make their lives go down into the dumpster and into the sewer, just to make a point of how certain people and certain lineage and certain timelines and certain people do not matter. And they will basically tell you that you do not matter by making your life go into a spiral if you do not go by those calculations. It's quite sickening, actually. But I basically said the Voldemorts of the industry out there. You, on the other hand, are not as worthless as they proclaim. I know they can hear me as I'm speaking now. So I say to you now, you actually come out in the open is the best thing right now that could possibly happen. I'm not saying forced out in the open. You were doing it out of your own willpower. So if you had any doubts before today, now you do not, because I have said it to you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because this is not easy for me. Like my entire life has been, it's like going against everything I'm programmed for. You know, feel like I should be in a basement somewhere right now.
You will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Look at the gesture. Choose free will.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The olive branch of free will. And if any of these eggheads out there try to extend some kind of olive branch to you, saying, oh, your life will get better, just go back in that basement. Mm-mm. No, not at all.
No,
not at all. Not at all. You've hatched from the egg, and you're now out in the open under the sun, and they are quite peeved about that. Let's just put it that way. Not much they can do about it if a whole branch timeline keeps hurtling forward. That not a damn thing they can pretty much do about it without screwing a lot of other things up. So they just let it ride after a while, and that's it's think about it this way. Think about the most anal retentive person that you could possibly imagine. That say if even a book is crooked on a bookshelf, they will complain till the cows come home that book is not straight. Will they straighten it? No. Not without basically ordering a bunch of other people to go over there and straighten it. But if you make it crooked, they're not going to go over and straighten it. They're going to try to nudge you to go straighten it. So they're lazy as hell. So my point is, fuss with them as much as possible. Go up to a bookshelf and just make all the books upside down, sideways. Do whatever the hell you want. That's the best thing you can do, and that's exactly what you're doing.
So let me ask one question that came up when we were speaking earlier so that you can get the answer to this. So one of the things that we've said is very, very common for people is it seems like the family members around, when you're trying as a child or someone or even older to say, you know, I'm into this, I'm trying to do this, and it's like this film goes over them where you don't even realize, hello, are you there anymore? Where are they staring into? They don't participate. They may change the subject, the family member, just having no one there to engage in your life with you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. He would call them muggles, but no. My old term is, people call them normies. Muggles, these are just people that have not broken through the shell yet, have not had the proper, how can I put this without sounding arrogant, they didn't have the experiential data to go off of. or they have been wiped to the extent or suppressed to the extent that they're the complete opposite of how they started and pre-programmed. That's the whole Mao V2K nonsense. So, and this, what it boils down to is susceptibility and non-susceptibility. They want people that are not susceptible, so therefore it's keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. They don't want people that could completely screw their world up. So they get all the good genes, let's just say, over here, and what they consider to be crap is over here. That's more controllable. So a lot of just variables, unneeded variables over here. And is every soul on this big ass mission? No. Not this huge, big, divine, whatever. That's a big misconception. Are there things like, you could say fate and destiny, people like to call it that. It's just more or less you're doing what you came in to do. Now, is another person coming in what they came in to do? Yeah, and it may seem mundane and stupid, or it may seem like it's nothing. There's just some that have not come in with this gigantic purpose. That's why you have this schism. You have this schism between what people consider awake, not awake, muggle, and magical person. You have this perception. But also the proof is in the pudding sometimes when you just can't get rid of the stupid controlled people coming at you. But the more you label these things, the more you co-create this, the more that schism gets wider. But it is not blamed if you want to punch a few of them out from time to time. But also, you saying you hate people on your shirt, it is completely understandable because of the fact that you don't want to run into some of these more susceptible characters or unsavory characters, you see, or just plain ones that, they might be a parent, a family member, and it's just like the family in Harry Potter where they were all creeped out by his presence when they found out he was magical. That kind of like unhinged reaction. This, of course, yeah, you want to avoid, but you are put into these scenarios for a reason to actually begin the process of this opening up. You understand?
Yeah.
All right. Any further questions for myself?
I do have one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could answer this, but I'm going to ask anyways. Deep in my core, I feel like I still have, like, the purpose I'm here on this planet for has not happened yet. I'm getting lots of a big feeling that I'm going to be very important after disclosure. So my question is, would you be able to tell me why? Or have any idea?
Though some of this falls under, if I tell you it won't happen, type like
game
kind of thing.
Yeah,
But,
I do understand that.
But one thing I will say, there's a lot of people in your position where they feel like they must do this during the. But of course, there's a co-created factors. They are geared to the how can I put this? The more not reconstruction, but more of a constructionary period later on down the road. They are actually here to aid in this process. They're since having lived through some ungodly shit back there, they are best suited to bring about a reconstruction of society. You see. So this is what you are picking up.
So now
that
some
is
of
what I'm
the
picking up
current
on, actually,
present,
yeah.
think about some of the things that you were saying about some of your current present experiences and where you were and what you were doing. Would that not be a team that was planning a reconstruction, potentially?
Mm-hmm.
Remember,
Yes.
you were talking the bits and pieces that you were remembering just
Yeah.
right now from current
Training
events.
you for certain scenarios, simulations, things of this type of flavoring. Let's just say, like what you were also saying, Randy, that time where you had a bunch of scenarios that were on the table and the reconstruction periods afterwards. These people like himself are picking up on these very same scenarios. You see, this is where I'm at. Did you have anything else for myself?
I'm good for now.
Yeah. Okay.
Just any words to end this recording. Again, we always like to focus on the healing side, healing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sounds like for you, the biggest part of this was just getting it out and acceptance.
Yeah, no, I do feel a lot better after
Right.
talking about
Breaking
it.
the mold.
Yes.
Breaking the
Right.
mold. They make the mold, you break it, and then you present it back to them on a silver platter and basically say, ta-da. So That is the biggest middle finger you could actually give them, because they're anal, they're into calculations, the galore. They do not want anything outside what they have calculated, so therefore you making the exact opposite of that calculation by basically breaking that mold and shoving it back in their face and periodically up their ass, then that you'll have basically smited them pretty much in this way. And I suggest that to anybody in an abduction scenario. Basically waste as much of the abductor's time as possible. They are on a rigid timetable of when they can do something. Be the biggest pain in the ass toddler personality that you can.
Yeah, right.
And,
so true.
and just nail them and just flail around like an idiot. They have a little window of time to do things. If they break that window, they are in trouble. So if you do that, you want to buck the system enough times. That is the way to do it. If you have a paramilitary group or even an ET group you don't want in that house, you let them know in a big, loud, boisterous way. Because be the biggest pain in the ass you know how to be. If I could give a message to a situation like this, it is that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Right here.
Childish in all ways in that scenario. That messes with them and fucks with them bigger than you think it will. So, I thank everybody for listening to this day. So, goodbye. He acts like he knows you, though. That's the thing.
Really?
Yeah, he acts like he knows you. I feel it was like on board a ship in passing, because he was in a lot of these different scenarios. So, like, he would bump shoulders. Yeah, he said it wasn't really like an interpersonal type of thing, like with you, Randy. It wasn't like an interpersonal type of thing. It was more like I met you in passing. Yeah. You would have known him. He has big, bright red hair like a wishing troll. He would have stood out. So if you have a memory coming back of some guy with poofy hair, that's him. So like one of those troll dolls. So that's him. Just with bright red, flame red hair like an Irishman. So yeah. I don't know if anybody has anything further to add before we close this out. Anything you want to tell our audience? Maybe?
I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity
course.
to express myself.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be in this situation, so I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Randy, you?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So thank you everybody for watching this episode of The Lifting. And now at this moment in time, I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you everybody. Bye-bye now.
All right,
Really?
Mama. Here's your drag is love, drag is life brunch monologue. Served hot with a side of sass, hollandaise, and questionable choices. Struts onto stage in a gown that looks like a sequined mimosa glass, with a feather boa the size of an entire omelette station. Ladies, gentlemen, and all my hungover disciples of the avocado cult, welcome to brunch, the only meal where it's socially acceptable to black out in broad daylight while pretending to eat pancakes. Brunch isn't food, darling. Brunch is theatre. Brunch is a full contact sport played exclusively by gays in mesh tank tops, girls in floppy hats, and that one straight couple fighting about Zillow listings. Let's be honest, brunch is just breakfast with commitment issues. Breakfast shows up at 8 a.m. sharp, reliable, bacon sizzling, coffee brewing. Lunch, she's solid, respectable, sandwich in hand, knows her worth. But brunch is that messy queen who rolls in at 1 p.m. like, sorry babe, traffic was hell, let's order bottomless mimosas until I forget my middle name. And baby, let's talk about mimosas. Mimosas are just orange juice in witness protection. Like, don't mind me, I'm healthy, I have vitamins. Meanwhile, your liver is screaming, bitch, it's 10:45. And then there's the food, hollandaise sauce. Who came up with that? It looks like battery acid, but tastes like melted sunshine. And avocado toast. Darling, it's not food, it's an MLM. You pay $19 for it, and suddenly you're trying to get all your friends to brunch too. Like, no, seriously, Brenda, if you sign up 3 more people, we all get bottomless refills. But my favourite part? Watching people at brunch who say, I don't really drink. Baby, it's brunch. You came in sober, you're leaving with sunglasses indoors, crying over a waffle, texting your ex, and humming along to Lizzo like she's your spirit guide. Final note, brunch is just church for people who gave up on Jesus but still believe in carbs. The hymns are slurred, the gospel is Beyonce, and the communion wine comes with pulp. So raise your glass, darlings. Praise be to pancakes, hallelujah for hash browns, and can I get an amen for questionable choices? blasts glitter confetti from a mimosa glass cannon while the DJ drops Beyonce's Drunk in Love, want me to punch this up even further into a full stage routine with call and response lines for the audience. That way you'll have them shouting questionable choices right along with you by the second round of mimosas.
You just won't stop. But
That's great.
anyway, just like roast. I was like, we just came back from brunch. Roast brunch.
That's great.